All right, so today we are going to be looking through this foldable that we've just made. So once you have put your foldable together, folded it in half, cut those 3 tabs into the front side, we're going to be able to go through our notes. And today we're going to be talking about 3 trigonometric functions that are used with right triangles. And those are the functions of sine, cosine, and tangent. So let's go ahead and fill in what those terms are called. I'm just going to fill this in on the front. So what you can see on my right side is what is on the front of your foldable. Mine's going to look a little bit different than yours just because I can't fold a PDF. So just bear with me on that. So on the right side, where it says SOH, we're going to write the rest of the word sine right here. That's S-I-N-E. And that is abbreviated S-I-N. That is abbreviated S-I-N. So that's our first function. Our second function is called a cosine. And it is abbreviated C-O-S. And our last function is called a tangent. And that's abbreviated tan, T-A-N. Now we're going to dive into these functions in a little bit more detail. But first we have to know what each of these functions is defined as. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to figure out what these 2 things stand for. Now before I fill those in, I have to scroll down and talk about what those words actually mean. So actually, let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and give you the terms first, and then we'll talk about what they are. So sine stands for opposite, or sine is defined as the opposite over the hypotenuse. Is defined as the opposite over the hypotenuse. So really, anytime we're dealing with the sine function, the sine is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So we could write this out in a little bit more detail. The sine of whatever angle, and I'll talk more about that in a second, equals the opposite. So let me use a different symbol. Sine of our angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. Now, what is the opposite and the hypotenuse? So we're going to talk about what that is in just a second. So let's scroll down. So this left side of this page here, this should be on the back flap when you open the top flap for your sine. So we've got our angle here, and this is the angle called theta. This symbol here is just your angle. So it's whatever angle that we're talking about. Now, we're dealing exclusively with right triangles, and we should already know that the hypotenuse is the side across from the right angle. So we've got a right angle, we've got our hypotenuse. And then the other piece is the opposite side. The other piece of a sine function is the opposite side. So it's the angle opposite, or it's the side, opposite from the angle that we're dealing with. So we've got the side opposite, and we've got the hypotenuse. And those are the 2 sides that I'm using when I'm dealing with a sine function. So the sine of my angle, and in this case it's actually the sine of theta, is equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Let me show you an example of how we're going to use this function. Now this is the front side. Well, I don't really know how to describe it. It's first thing you see when you open the flap under sine. It's on the right side. And one of the things we have to make sure is that our calculator is in degrees. If you do not have your calculator in degrees, you're going to get the wrong answer. It's just not going to be correct. So you're going to make sure that your calculator is in degrees. And to do that, what we need to do is you need to turn it on, if it's not on already. And you're going to hit the mode button. It is to the right of the blue second button. So you're going to hit mode. And the third row, there's this line that says radian and degree. And it's probably on radian, but you're going to tab over and hit degree. So it should be flashing with degree. And then you're going to hit clear, and you should be good to go. And then if you check mode again, it'll be under the degree mode. And that's what we need to be using. If you use radians, every answer you get will be incorrect. So make sure it's in the right mode. So how we use this sine function. We're given an angle. In this case, our angle is 26. And so we're going to set it up something like this, where the sine of that angle, the sine of 26 in this case, equals my opposite side over my hypotenuse. My opposite side over my hypotenuse. And my opposite side in this case is x, and my hypotenuse is 14. So now I have an equation that tells me that the sine of 26 equals x over 14. Now this is solved just like any equation. We want to get x by itself. And the sine of 26 is its own piece, so we can't split this up at all. So we're going to leave that alone. But I want to get rid of this 14 that's dividing by the x. So I'm going to multiply by 14 on both sides. And so I'm left with 14 times the sine of 26 equals x. And if I put that into my calculator, 14 times the sine of 26, we get about 6.1. Should get about 6.1. Now, if you got about 10.7 or 10.67, then you have not changed it to degrees, and you needed to go back and change it into degrees, plug it into the calculator again. So our answer should be that x is approximately 6.1. And that's how you use the sine function. Now, every time you use the sine or the cosine or the tangent, you're going to be finding the sides. You're going to be finding a missing side of your triangle. So we're going to be finding sides. And these are known as the standard or normal trig functions. In the next lesson, we'll talk about some opposite functions that'll do kind of the backwards way to find the angle itself. But with just the standard functions, we are always finding the sides. Now, I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to split this up. We're going to talk about cosine and tangent in the next video. Now that we kind of know how these things work, those should go a little bit quicker.